Hi, my name is Sasha Buggs. I've been going to Redeemer for about a year now, and I lead the 6th grade girls. So my story starts, I was at the most recent New Year's retreat, and I was just sitting in campfire, and I was just praying, and I had this kind of vision in my head, and it was of if you think about a rotting apple, that was the world, and then there was the heavens above here, and God's okay, well, you can either be in this world that it's gonna rot and live that worldly life where it's obviously gonna end at some point, or you can choose God and live it, be in the heavens and think of heavenly things above. And in that moment, I decided I don't want to live in a world that's gonna eventually die and that's only gonna lead me to death. I want to be with Jesus, where I can live in heaven and be with Him. And that kind of vision that God gave me helped me decide to drop all the worldly things that I was doing and to really focus on God and live my life through Him instead of worrying. And it took so much stress out of my life instead of worrying about, oh my gosh, I have this and this and this, and realizing that I don't have to worry about things anymore because I have Jesus.
Hi, my name is Judy Johnson, and I attended Faith Haven, back in the late 60s, early 70s. One of the memories I have of camp when I was a kid was we always went to Inspiration Point. So the youth leaders at the time would get us on the bus, and we would drive to Inspiration Point, which is just down the road from Faith Haven. And we would spend an evening out on Inspiration Point and have devotions, sharing testimonies, singing worship songs just out in nature, and being up in that high point in the state of Minnesota, looking over all of God's creation. Faith Haven has been I'll say the solid footings to our faith as young children, and have been able to carry that out into our adulthood as you get old like me. And I know there are many other members here at Redeemer who also enjoyed Faith Haven and had that as the foothold of their faith, where they maybe met Jesus for the first time.
Hello, my name is Colby, and I started going to Faith Haven in 2019. It wasn't until my junior year where I was at a New Year's retreat and we had spiritual warfare going on, and I got attacked. But that's when I realized that the community around me is super loving and not only there, but always there to support you and love on you and pray for you and get that light of God to shine on you. When I was all wrapped up in my head, didn't know what to do, I opened my eyes and I had the entire camp laying their hands on me and praying for me. And that's when I realized that Jesus' light is the strongest thing out there and will just shine on you always. I would strongly encourage every kid here to go to camp, because you really get to experience the love of God, and just this community that you can build relationships in is it's just family. The moment you go there, everyone welcomes you like they're your own, and it's just super wonderful. And it's a great time.
Hi, I'm Josh Brandt. I went to Faith Haven back in 2014. The main thing I got out of Faith Haven, and it always happened at Open Chapel. Open Chapel really helped speak to me and who I will become in the future. Going into that camp, I was really struggling with comparison and struggling with who I really am in the Lord's eyes. I had an awesome leader in Kyle Thompson, and Jesus spoke through Kyle in that moment at Open Chapel, and he told me that the Lord is proud of me, and he loves me, and that he just cares for me in every single way. And that really helped change who I am today. And then also going through to Open Chapel, I was a leader later in my life, and Nathan Strucker also came up to me during Open Chapel when I was a leader and just told me I had the gift of encouragement. And those two things combined really helped me to become the leader I am today. And through that, I was able to be a resident assistant at Bethel University for 2 years and help guide freshmen towards an awesome freshman year and towards the Lord.
Hey, I'm Dave Griffith. Yeah, so I've been going to Faith Haven since the year 2000, ever since I started the confirmation. I think just the experience in a whole of just Faith Haven, from jumping into the lake, to the fires at night, to the worship sessions, the teachers, all of that in a whole just deeply impacted my life. And I still am connected to all those people that I hung out with 20 plus years ago at Faith Haven. So it's really cool that the people I went to high school I don't even talk to anymore, but the people that I was connected to through Faith Haven, through Redeemer, is my core today. And today I'm serving out in Thailand, and I would like to believe that Faith Haven had played a big part in that, in pretty much the trajectory of my life working in missions.
Hi, my name is Anna. I started going to Faith Haven in 2015 as a 4th grader, and it changed my life in so many ways. I grew up in the church, and I've always been around, kind of just building off my family's faith and never really having that of my own. But through going to Faith Haven, I used to just go because my mom made me. But throughout the years, I really started to see God work through my life and really just speak to me up at camp, and that's when I had my first experience with that. And ever since, I've kind of just got to see what this new life is with Christ, and eventually that got me to wanting to be a leader at camp, and now I'm a full-time staff, so it's kind of just cool how at Faith Haven I've got to see God work through so many ways and so many different roles as a student and then a leader and now as a full-time staff. So it's just really amazing what God can do up at camp in that space, and then seeing how we can bring it home to our communities.
My name is Cody Cosman. I started attending camp back in 2013. It was my sophomore year, going into my sophomore year of high school. And during my time, I've been a student and a leader and a cook. And one of the moments that just sticks out to me is one of the times I was leading at a middle school camp. And I just remember when one of my students came to me and told me that he wanted to give his life to Christ. And one of the highest honors that I've ever had was just praying with him and helping teach him what that would look like and giving him some of the words to say, because he just was very unsure. And then seeing him put the light bulb in and all of the people in his small group just going up and giving him a hug. It's still one of my favorite things from camp to this day.
My name is Brayden. I've been coming to camp since 2016, so when I was in 4th grade. But one story I want to tell in particular is, I don't remember exactly my age, but I want to say it was when I was still in middle school. One of our leaders had given a testimony on how God had changed their life through worship and how we should try and raise our hands or try something new during worship to try and connect with God. And during campfire that night, for the first time ever, I raised my hands and I stood up during our campfire acoustical worship. And I could just feel this overwhelming sense of peace and joy whenever I would do that during that worship time. And it was just such a new experience for me. And I just started crying on the spot at the time because I had never felt that peace and that joy before. And it was just great. And that was just how I was able to connect more through worship to Jesus. And ever since that, that's how I really connect through Jesus, is through worship.
Hi, my name is Addison, and I first started going to Faith Haven in the winter of 2024. I would say that my most impactful moment at Faith Haven was open chapel on the last night. The theme of the New Year's retreat in 2024 was about forgiving, surrendering, and transforming. And I just think that in that moment in my life, I was really struggling with forgiving people, past relationships, and even God, because my grandpa had passed away a couple weeks before New Year's retreat, and it was super hard on me. So to sit in open chapel and to see everyone being so vulnerable with each other it really impacted me, and it definitely transformed me. And I think that now I just look back and I yearn for that moment, and I'm so excited to go back and just get to experience everything in a different light and a new mindset, and just see what God has for everybody that He brings there.
My name is Lisa Larson, Zimmerman Larson. I came to camp for the first time, I think I was 9 years old in 1976. Had just a wonderful experience at Faith Haven. I remember campfire, sitting on couch cushions on the floor in the warming house, and really feeling Jesus' presence for the first time in my life. And I've been coming back with Redeemer Ministry ever since. I was privileged to be a leader, a lifeguard, and cooking for Redeemer since 1999. What a blessing. And really being able to see a whole generation of people coming with Redeemer and really feeling the presence of God and meeting God here. And we've just had the privilege to witness that, and it's part of our heart too, and the joy that we have serving here.
Hi everybody, I'm Scott Larson. First time I came to Faith Haven was in 1977. To make a long story short, I became involved with Redeemer and the camping ministry at Faith Haven, and it's really changed my life. I was asked to speak about a specific moment when I knew that Jesus was here at camp, and I won't give it real specific to you, but it was an instant that was going on at camp, and I was praying over it because the incident didn't stop happening when Redeemer left from camp. And so I went to the building involved and prayed really hard for 15 minutes or so. And as soon as I said amen, I had a peace that came over me, and I received real hard evidence that the problem was gone. And for me, it really showed to me that God listens to our prayers and He answers our prayers.
Hi, my name is Ava Wilson, and I've been going to Faith Haven since 2024. I was baptized at Faith Haven last year in the summer, and I think one way it really benefited me was before I was baptized, I didn't feel really as worthy for Jesus's love, and I just didn't feel like I deserved His love. But then after I was baptized, I just got this overwhelming sense of just love and just His presence, and it was one of the best moments of my life. And I think just having that have been done at Faith Haven kind of impacted it a little bit more, because Faith Haven is just a beautiful place to be, and everywhere I go I feel God's presence, and every time I go back I always just remember that feeling of love and that first feeling that I ever had of Jesus's love, and just Him just telling me you are worthy, I love you, and I will always love you no matter what you look like, who you are, if you're baptized or not.
Hi, my name's Alaina Scott. I've been going to camp since 2013, and my first camp, I went into it and I was so homesick. I was so missing my parents, and my mom was literally up there as a cook, so it made no sense. But throughout the week, I just found so much love and joy through there, and I just loved it so much. And I've gone there ever since. I've gone to all my summer camps and just found so much love and joy and community there. I've been leading, which has just been such an even bigger impact on my life. Leading students at camp is just such an awesome thing to see, and just kids' lives are truly changed there. It's night and day. And then this year I'm full-time staff, which is even awesomer, and I'm just so excited to see how that goes and just how Jesus works through there. Jesus has just changed my life and really shown me so much love through the other people through there, and so much wisdom and just joy. And it's the funnest week of the summer. I wouldn't want to spend it anywhere else.
Hey, I'm Shannon Scott, and I started going to Faith Haven when my daughter was a third grader, so it was in 2013, I want to say. Going up to Faith Haven has always been a highlight for all of us, and I just remember a time in 2014 when times were really tough with us at our household and our family. I really wanted to have my kids go up to camp again the next year. However, finances were tough, so we were recipients of a partial scholarship, and that was a huge deal where God provided. They had family camp that year as well. All of us could not be there, but I found Jesus was a part of church family, and our Father God's family was part of our family there, and just brought a lot of restoration. And then the following summer, we went as a united family, and that was a beautiful thing too. So our home family was all intact.
Hi, my name is Jared Noland. I've been going to camp ever since I was in 5th grade. We were in a space called Campfire. I believe I was in 10th or 11th grade at the time. And I had been super depressed and having some not exactly fun thoughts that really were taking a toll on me, that I felt that I was alone, that I had no worth or anything like that. And I remember the specific song, which pretty much everyone knows is Reckless Love. As we were singing the chorus in that, I just felt this overwhelming wave of comfort, peace, and love that just came over me, and that was the love of Jesus. It made me feel safe, comforted, and loved, and that I wasn't alone in that moment. It just gave me that peace.
Hi, my name is Vienna, and I started going to Faith Haven last summer in 2024, and I kind of decided to go on the influence of friends, but it ended up really changing like my life as a whole. Before Faith Haven, I was going through a lot of troubles with like relationships and stuff like that, and it put me in a really dark place. And going into Faith Haven, I didn't really think my mind was really going to change about anything, and that like I wasn't going to get that deeper connection that I was hoping that I would get, because the first couple of days nothing really happened, so I was kind of like, dang, this sucks. But it was on like the third night during campfire, Psalms 23 started playing, and it stated, "You are not alone," and that was our theme for the camp as a whole. And that was really impactful on me, because at that time I felt very alone and I lost a big part of who I was, and that just like really changed me as a person and changed my outlook on life, because now I have such a strong community around me, and it just like knows that God is always in my presence, and I just always know that now.
Hi, my name's Austin. I've been going to camp since I was an 8th grader in 2014. This story kind of takes place at the first ever young adult retreat, which was in 2021. Kind of heard God's voice in the back of my head just say, missionary. And I got really excited and I told some friends. But then later that night, I kind of heard from God that He was calling me into a time of patience. Over the next 2 years, as I was patiently waiting, I kind of forgot about my call until at the young adult retreat in 2023, I was spending time in prayer with God, and I had just started like a month earlier working at this demolition place, and I heard from God up at the young adult retreat, Him say, "My plan for you is not to destroy, but to build up." It kind of reminded me that I am called to be a missionary, and now we'll be going on a 6-month mission trip with YWAM.
Hi, my name is Jill. I was a camper, counselor, and on camp staff from 1977 to 1990. Camp is a sacred place for me. In my teen years, I really dealt with a lot of insecurity and believed a lot of lies about who I was. I really felt like there was some brokenness in my soul, and I really didn't like a lot of who I was in many ways. And Jesus, during the years of camp, really started to heal me. And that happened through my counselors who spoke truth into me. They made me feel like I mattered and that I belonged. It happened during campfire, where the Spirit washed over me during worship and provided me healing. And it happened during my role as a counselor, when Jesus developed a lot of confidence in me through that experience. Jesus really met me in powerful and personal ways there, and healed me and changed my life forever.
Hi, my name is Eli Paton, and I've been going to Faith Haven since 2016. My big faith story there at Faith Haven was senior year at our New Year's retreat. We did a kind of just like a devotional time where it was just listening to God, trying to have Him talk to us, and I really was not open to it at first. I wanted to just kind of sit there, really ignore it, and I decided, let's just open up and really see what God has to speak to me. And I just got a bunch of images and visions and all these random things that I had no idea what they were. And eventually we started to share as a group, and my friends started to share things, and I'm like, wait, I heard those things, and I started to tell them what they meant. Eventually I figured out that God was giving me the ability to speak for people, kind of interpret their visions. And so Faith Haven ultimately allowed me to not only take that step in my faith, and it really pushed me to become a leader and want to motivate others.
Hi, my name is Elisa, and I first went to camp in 2006 when I was 5, because my mom was a cook. I was very self-conscious of the fact that I was a weird little homeschool kid, but I didn't know how to fix that. So I was just left being this awkward kid who was petrified of what other people thought of me. And this actually kept me from participating in a lot of the fun or silly things that we would do, because I didn't want to look foolish and I didn't want people to judge me. So fast forward to middle school, one of the activities that we did was they gave us all these rocks, and we were supposed to write something on there that we wanted to surrender to God. So I wrote fear of judgment, and then we threw them in the lake. And it wasn't an instantaneous thing, but slowly over the course of that summer and that next school year, I started to just not care so much about what people thought of me. And it was this really freeing thing where I started to actually be who God made me to be and be authentic and genuine in who I am. And that was really, really cool.
Hello, my name is Joshua Volle, and I first attended Faith Haven in 2021, and it was where I chose to be baptized. The church I grew up in treated baptism kind of like Redeemer treats confirmation. It's a public declaration of your faith. Except at my church, it wasn't at the same time as a group of people. It was just something we had to do on our own at some point. And for a number of reasons, I never chose to do it at my home church. It was a really large community, and I never felt like I connected with people. I knew a lot of people, but I kind of just knew them a little bit. Fast forward to when I started attending Redeemer, I've since connected with a really great community of young adults. And with that, I've started going to Faith Haven camps. Faith Haven is really special in the way that it fosters deeper community. You're able to leave your distractions at home and really center on God as a group of followers of Christ. Faith Haven has played a really large role in the lives of many of the people now in my Christian community, and for that and many other reasons, I chose to get baptized at Faith Haven.
I'm Erik Hendrickson. The story I'm going to tell is about the first time I went to Faith Haven, which was 41 years ago, believe it or not. I was between my sophomore and junior year in high school. I had met Lisa Larson, who was actually the camp caretaker and cook up at Faith Haven right now. She invited me to go up to camp. So that would have been August of 1984. Went up there and wasn't quite sure what to expect. Got up there and kind of enjoyed myself a little bit. And then one of the last nights we were there was in chapel. I just felt this feeling come over me that something needed to change in my life at that point. And so I got together with one of my counselors, and we sat together and talked a little bit, prayed a little bit, and then later on that night I made the prayer and gave my life to Jesus.
My name is Cristian Johnson. I started in 5th grade at Redeemer. The best memories I had at Faith Haven or Open Chapel when I can reflect on Jesus and the quiet and how he important to me.
What are some other fun things that you liked about camp? What are some things you loved about camp?
The games, the food, boot hockey, the class, and my heart. That's a lot. It's a fun time, and you can go faith with God. Good friends, good relationship with God. Love Faith Haven, and they should go to camp.
All right, thank you, Cristian. You did it. Great job. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Cynthia Truehl Croker, and I now live in Canada, although I grew up in Fridley, Minnesota. And in 1972, I went to Faith Haven, and I'm so grateful I did. It is where I committed my life to Christ on a dock one night. And since then, I heeded the call to go to Youth with a Mission, and I trained in the arts, and really felt led by the Holy Spirit to start a professional dance company with my Australian husband and good friend. And we started Modesto Dance Theater and toured the world as ambassadors for dance, because God created it. Thank you for Faith Haven. Thank you for pointing me to Jesus and for changing my life. I'm forever grateful.
Hi, I'm John Olzanski, and I went to Faith Haven for many years. Started back at about, date myself, back in 1976. But I think one of the memories that stands out most is out on the Black Raft. We kind of did the thing, I guess, at the church camp. We did kind of like a baptism by launching off. On a more serious note, I think that when Christ shows up at camp along with us and the counselors, we find out that, you develop some friendships over the years. They talk about discipleship. And I think one thing unique about Faith Haven and Redeemer is that over the years we've kept our friendships because we have more in common than just sports or anything. When you make that commitment, you have it for life. When you have the core of who you are as a Christian, it's with you forever, and that's a long time. So enjoy the summer camp. It's been a great 60 years.
Hi, my name is Nate Hendrickson. One of the first times that I went up to Faith Haven was in 2018 as a full-time staff member. And one of the moments about Faith Haven where Jesus impacted my life at Faith Haven was, I think, this actual previous year when I was up at an open chapel, and I was just, for the first time that in a long time at that point, that I'd felt His Spirit on me and just kind of pointing me towards what the kids needed and what I needed to hear. And it was just an overwhelming sense of peace in my life that I hadn't felt in a while, especially since being back up at Faith Haven for the first time in a few years. It was good to finally know that this is a place not only where Jesus connects to us everywhere, but this is like a hot spot for Him, and it just absolutely made my camp and helped me in the months to come.
Hi, my name is Gracia Strecker, and I've been attending Faith Haven Camp since 2006. But not as a camper, but as a nurse. And I found that week that I volunteered to be up at Faith Haven was just one of my favorite weeks of the summer for me personally, because I was just inspired when I saw the youth and their faith, how it grew during their experiences at camp. And also what probably was most impactful though is I have been so motivated in my faith walk as I saw the young adults and the high school students as they were leaders and as they poured out their passion and their love of Jesus on their students. That really worked in my own heart and just kind of stirred the work of Jesus in my heart. So I was never a student there, but Faith Haven has definitely impacted my life, and I still continue to love to go up there as a volunteer.
My name's Lilly Strunk, and I've been going to Redeemer and to Faith Haven since 2015. Back when it was my first year of summer camp staff in 2022, abide. And the nice thing about being on summer camp staff is actually that you get to go to both camps. And so it was open chapel, which is just like a moment where you get to talk to God yourself. And I got to see the kids that I had been pouring into for years and years and years at that point, leading their students and sitting with their students and praying over their students in this open chapel space, and seeing them help their students put a light bulb in our board. And a light bulb is just like showing that the student gave their life to Jesus, and just watching them like cry over their students the same way that I cried over my students. It's just something that that sticks with me forever and ever and ever, so.
What's up, guys? I'm Sam Peterson. I went to camp in 2019. And a couple years back, I had a really tough season of like confusion and chaos in my life. So I went up to camp, and then at some point, we did this really quiet prayer time, and I kind of breezed through it. Nothing happened for me. I was disappointed again. And at the end of it, a fellow camper came up to me and said God had told them that I needed to know that I was enough, right? And that was absolutely groundbreaking for me. See, I was kind of at a spot where I was overwhelmed with the expectations I put on myself. I felt like I should be at a better spot than where I was at with my faith, and it was kind of eating me up inside. When they said the words to me, you are enough, I knew that it wasn't that camper talking, it was God talking through that person, and that meant the world to me.
Hello, my name is Levi. Last year was my first year at camp, and there's one night at campfire where just felt really special, like Jesus was actually there. Just worship sounded like extra special.
Can you tell me, what were some other things that you just liked about camp? Why should someone else go to camp?
Well, it's very fun. I made some new friends there. And now that I know a lot more people here at church, Redeemer, well, especially like playing Newcomb. And actually, I kind of liked doing KP, kitchen party. It was kind of fun helping out clean up. Probably getting pushed into the lake, maybe. You should go to camp. It's very fun.
my name is Laney Palmer and I am currently a junior. I started going to summer camp in 2018, but I became a leader in 2023. And although God changed my life in so many ways as a student, I think He really shifted my perspective when I became a leader. Because I grew up in a home where everything was pretty easy for me and I didn't really have to fight to learn who God was. I thought that was everyone's case, but meeting a group of students who didn't come from the perfect place or the perfect family or a two-parent household really made me know that God was so much bigger than the problems they were facing, because they were up on stage worshiping God even though their mom had just passed away, or even though their parents had just gotten divorced. And that just showed me that God is so much bigger than any problem that they were facing, and it made me want to evangelize to every student I saw. It made me want to speak up about the Jesus that changed my life but also changed their life.
My name is Tristian Koster. I've been going to camp since work retreat of 2022. High school camp of 2024, I actually volunteered to be a cook, and I had struggled with Jesus for a long time, but I had sat down at the final open chapel and I had talked with some close people of mine, and I decided to finally put my light bulb in after 2 years of going to camp. And I have gone to church every Sunday. I have started to volunteer and actually be a greeter in the morning, and I love pouring my relationship into Jesus and my whole Sundays and friends and family, and yeah. It changes lives. Everything about camp changes lives. Campfire, just meals with everybody, session, it changes lives. Yeah.
Hi, Sean Lambert. I went to Redeemer in the 70s. Through getting to know people at Redeemer, they were short a counselor, could not find anyone else, so they invited me. I'd never been to Faith Haven, so I was told I had to sleep in the dorm and make sure the sixth graders didn't burn the place down. I think the biggest takeaway for me, when you think about what it means to be a disciple, is someone who also makes other disciples. And what Redeemer did for me is it gave me an opportunity not just to hear, but to do. And not just to be a listener, but to be engaged fully in changing other people's lives. And that journey led me to be a full-time missionary. And all around the world, I meet people from Redeemer. And I think Faith Haven is one of those camps where it wasn't just going to a camp and getting a spiritual high, but so many of us became camp counselors. So many of us went into the ministry, dozens and dozens of full-time people all over the world because of the impact of Faith Haven.
Hi, my name is Jeffrey, and I've been going to Faith Haven since 2016. A big time I remember when Jesus really touched my life at camp was I was my first year leading, and it's the first open chapel. Then this one kid came up. He wasn't my student, but he was 2 years younger than my kids, and he came up to me. He's like, "Jeff, you were the first guy to be nice to me at this church." And I started crying, and he's like, "Jeff, don't cry. I want you to pray over me so I could give my life to Jesus." Then I cried more, and it took me about 3 minutes to wrap up me crying about this kid being so nice and just showing all his love and being happy that I was loving to him. So I just prayed over him, and he gave his life to Christ. Then I cried more. Then about 5 other kids came up to me and said about the same thing. And it was one of the craziest experiences, because I know I'm always trying to be a loving person, but seeing how many kids I can impact with just Jesus's love and how Jesus loves me, and I just get to do that for all the other kids, is just beautiful.
Hi, I am Darcy Weingartner. I started going to camp in 1988, 3rd grade. So I've been there, done there, been a lot of the different places, camper, counselor, all the different roles, but I have had the privilege to be the camp nurse so many times at camp. So there was just recently in a camp that we went to, there was a student that had some medical needs, and it was his first time at camp. And so I felt that I was able to take care of those needs on the backside, and he was able to experience camp, all the things, and seeing camp for the first time through a new camper that is their first time to go away, to be away from mom and dad, to see them experience Jesus and all that Faith Haven offers was truly amazing. And to know that then I had a key part in keeping everything kind of going in the background so that he was able to be at camp and enjoy and meet Jesus right there at Faith Haven.
My name is Brooks and I started to go to camp in 2022.
Okay, can you tell me some of your favorite things about camp?
The boys' gym,
What do you like about the boys' gym?
the ping pong table, and pool.
What are some of your memories that you remember from your first time at camp?
Falling off my scooter.
You fell off your scooter? Can you tell me what were you doing with your scooter?
I was going down the big hill at camp and then I didn't turn and I fell.
Fell. And then what happened? Did people take care of you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What are some things you look forward to doing at camp when you get older?
Lead.
Are you gonna be a leader at camp? Mm-hmm. Tell me about campfire.
I didn't like it because it got too hot, but it's fun to listen to the songs. Everyone just sings all together. I love Faith Haven.
Woo! Thank you, Brooks.
Hi, my name is Noah Jarvis, and this is my first year at camp. There's two big parts that really changed my life at camp so far this week. First one was probably at the altar. We basically just wrote our burdens that we've had and that we've carried to camp on sticks, little popsicle sticks, and a bunch of leaders came and prayed for us about them. And that really just broke me down in like so many ways I didn't expect to. And then another big thing that happened this week is my first baptism. When I was just in the water and coming out, I just felt relieved of everything that was going on in my life and just felt lightened in a way that was like I haven't experienced before. I recommend other people coming to camp so they can experience Jesus in new ways that they've never experienced him before. This is probably one of the first times I've heard Jesus really speak to me, and I think that a lot of people can express that way as well, that Jesus spoke to them for the first time.
My name's Dale Olson, and I started attending Faith Haven camp back in 1969 at my 4th grade camp. I'd grown up in a Christian home, but it was at camp where I started putting all the pieces together that formed my faith. That's just a place I love because I can never repay Faith Haven for what it's done in my life. One of the biggest impacts is in 1986. I was sitting at a counselor meeting up in front, but my mind was totally away from what was going on. I didn't hear the meeting at all, but I did hear the Lord say, "It's time to get ready. I'm sending you soon." And I knew exactly what he meant because I felt the mission call on my life for a long time. And this was the time to get off my seat and go and to follow the Great Commission.
Hi, Peter Eicher. Started not as a camper, but as a volunteer at a work retreat in 2006. Was a camper till 2008. One of our leaders here at the ministries going until 2018. Full-time staff 2010. And I look at Faith Haven not just as a avenue simply of just going to camp and meeting Jesus, but seeing the legacy of Jesus. As I've gone through my 12 years here with Faith Haven in life, it's been a huge portion of seeing the leaders that he's brought up and the impact of the students that then become the future leaders. I look at even just our own Nathan Strecker and guys up there that have just been there, I've been part of their lives and their family, but then also just seeing how Christ has developed them and taken that shepherding body to move forward. I look more or less to the vastness of God and how we see that seed spread and get sown across the entire time. And I've just seen that Faith Haven has been an area where that seed has deep soil to grow into.
Hey, my name's Craig McClurg. I first went to Faith Haven in July of 1981. The big moment for me was Wednesday night, Guys Lounge. We just finished singing at campfire, and I'm telling you, church wasn't like that for me. What was happening at camp was kind of blowing my mind. I remember sitting with a good friend of mine now, Brian Anderson, one of the camp counselors, and I just asked him, "What's going on here?" And that's when Brian patiently explained, "Hey, you're experiencing Holy Spirit working on you. You're experiencing Jesus." And I'd heard about Jesus, I'd been going to church and stuff like that, but experiencing Jesus was really the thing that happened at Faith Haven. He invited me to pray. I bowed my head, and there wasn't any lightning or thunder or any crazy stuff that happened, but that was the beginning for me, and really it's the start of my life story.
Okay, so I'm Nolan Bethel, and the first time I was at Faith Haven was probably somewhere around 2010. I've been raised in like hockey culture, sports, and it's a lot of like guys kind of hating on each other, stuff like that. And my small group leader had said something that kind of struck me, and we reflected on the message, and it was the idea that, you know, Jesus had loved his disciples in a way that nobody had seen before. And we're actually like allowed to do that with our friends and our brothers. And it's not weird to, you know, have a great relationship and love on a brother like that and say, I love you, bro. You know, that's a way that Jesus reflects into my life. Even today, one of my buddies that was in that small group, I'm going to his wedding this weekend because way back when we were able to just form a bond that like Jesus has with us and we can have with our brothers too.
Hi, my name is Amayah Archer, and I've been going to Faith Haven since 2017. I started going because my mom had went when she was my age, and she signed me up, and I was like, ooh, like I'm scared. I've never gone to camp before or been away from her for that long, and at first it was just for fun, but then stuff started happening at home, and there was a lot of issues and stuff. But when I went to Faith Haven, Jesus really spoke to me at Faith Haven and brought out this light in me that I didn't even know that existed, and it was just so amazing, and I just felt like a completely new person, a new transformed person. And then when I started leading last year, that even brought out a new light for me that I get to share with my kids, and they have brought in so much to me, and as much as I share Jesus with them, they also share Jesus with me. And leading them at Faith Haven and watching them go through the same transformation as I've gone, but in their own way, has been absolutely amazing. And Jesus is just so great in the way that he shines his light. Faith Haven just really is a place to be, not only for fun, but where Jesus shows light.
Hi, my name is Mary Monsrud, formerly Mary Mackelberg, and I started going to camp in 1978. The story that I have to share is from when I was a youth director, and I was coming down to campfire, and I just sat there for another minute praying, and then I started thinking about the hundreds of kids that had come before this moment, singing praises to the Lord in that room, and the hundreds of students that were going to come after this moment. And I could just see these praises heading out over the waters and then heading up to heaven. And just, it was this amazing picture of what heaven is going to be like when all the tribes and tongues and nations come together and all of these praises go up to heaven. And it was this beautiful, surreal moment. And then I was overcome with gratitude to the Lord for allowing me to be a part of what he was doing in people's lives.
Hello, my name is Dylan Frost, and I started going to camp in 2019, and something that's impacted me at camp is just feeling God's presence like I've never felt it before, because 2019 summer camp was my first camp that I've ever been to, so it was just all very new to me, and so I've never really felt God. And so at campfire, just feeling God's presence, like all the doors and windows were shut, and I just felt like a really cold breeze, and it's just nothing I ever felt before. So I looked back, and all the windows and doors were shut, so I was like, wow. And that's after I just got done praying, so it was just a amazing feeling just to feel God, and I knew it was God because I just knew it was him. And so just that's really impacted me to just to stay present and be in the moment and not think about the future or the past, and just be with him in that moment.
My name is Alexandra Squire, and I started going to camp in 2011. One thing that has impacted me most at camp has been just how I learned to hear God's voice. I learned how to hear God's voice in open chapel. That was the time where it was the quietest, and I could just hear exactly what God was telling me through reading scripture in open chapel and hearing other leaders pray for me and hearing their voices. I quickly learned that hearing God's voice in threes is exactly how I hear it's him. You can pray and ask God to show you other signs, and so I've learned that I can, if I'm confused if this is where he's leading me, I can continue to pray. I was able to learn this through my time up at Faith Haven because I would just hear him on the beach or in open chapel, in small group, wherever that would be around camp. My favorite time is hearing God's voice at campfire, and just the warmth and feeling of God. Like, I don't feel that anywhere else besides in that room.
Hi, my name is Graham Hennig, and this is my first year at Faith Haven Camp. I've been to some other Bible camps in the past in middle school, but this is actually my first high school camp I've been to since Camp Shannon in 5th grade. And at first I wasn't really looking forward to go. I mean, at first I didn't even think I was going to go at all. But then my youth leader, Andrew, pushed me to go, and I was like, fine, I'll come. And it's been a great experience for this week. On Monday night, we had a very powerful moment where at the altar where we wrote down things we want to give to the Lord on popsicle sticks, and then we went to a leader and they would pray over that. And it was such a powerful opportunity to give my burdens and my things that trouble me to God. And I'm hoping to take that what I've learned this week and to keep growing my faith with the Lord and moving past all the things I'm working through in my life.
Hi, I'm Ashley. I've been going to camp since 2019. The first thing that really stuck out to me my first year at camp was just the way that people treated each other and how kind they were to each other, and they just really showed Jesus's light through them to other people, and it was just great to see. And it's just such a welcoming community that just kind of followed through high school. And just the people that I met and the way I was treated just made me feel so loved. And I really got to see Jesus work through other people as well as myself. And it just taught me how to treat others. And it's just the whole place that Faith Haven is just filled with so much love because Jesus is shining through everyone. And the people that you meet there and the people you're friends with, they're just amazing people, and you can't really find that anywhere else. And that the Christian community there is just amazing, and it's crazy to see how Jesus is working through everyone there.
Hi, my name is Lexie Dresen. I've been going to Faith Haven since 2017, and how I've seen Jesus impact my life was this past camp was my senior year, and I got rebaptized. When I was thinking about it, I was thinking about getting rebaptized last year, and I was like, well, I need to hear Jesus speak more clearly to me to see if that's something that I want to do. And that day I was just talking to Akuna, and all of a sudden I just hear, you need to get rebaptized, and I knew that was from the Lord. And that was so amazing because I've never been able to clearly hear him speak to me like that before. And it was so fun because I just felt all my sins and just all of that hate that I had just be washed away, and I felt completely reborn. And it was amazing.
Hi, my name is Josh Rosa, and I have been going to Faith Haven since 2011. In my freshman year of high school, we were doing this activity where we were all sitting on the beachfront, and Brian, the youth director at the time, was talking about how we were just gonna sit and listen to see what God has to say to us. And as we were going and as into this activity, I thought that this was just gonna be this big booming voice that God was just gonna show up, kind of like what happened with Paul in Acts. But as we went through this activity, people would just come up to me and share some Bible verses that were really speaking to me and my situation at the time, or even using it as a prophetic word for me and some of my friends on what God was gonna have in store for us in our future and as we entered into high school. And Jesus doesn't always speak to us in these big booming flashy light experiences, but rather in the stillness and in the calm and in these very subtle ways that we need to be attentive and listening to what he has to share for us.
Hi, my name is Lucas McClure, and I've been going to church camp since 2019. Church camp has been a place for me and my small group to grow closer together, not only to God, but with each other. Going into this past year, me and my small group have had some issues pop up that weren't necessarily our fault, but brought distance between us. And this feeling went on going into our camp this year for the first couple of days. But going through the week, we grew closer together. So going into the last night of campfire, we shared this beautiful moment of vulnerability with each other where tears, hugs, and prayers were exchanged. And through this moment, I just felt this overwhelming rush of peace and joy come over me and I started smiling and I couldn't stop. Because in a matter of a week, we went from feeling this distance to being close again. I'm just so happy and proud to have these guys as my brothers in Christ.
Hi, my name is Rachel Hovland, and I have been coming to Faith Haven since 1974. I was 5 years old, and my mom was cooking, and I still remember a ton of things from that camp. The most pivotal camp for me was a camp theme called Count the Cost, which used to be a song sung by David Meese, and it was in 1986. I was a junior, and it was just a time where we as students were challenged to make it real and to make that pivotal change and leave the world behind and chase after Jesus. And that was the time that it became a real serious thing for me. It became my own faith. And then, through the years we've continued to be involved, and just it's been amazing to watch my kids go through and have the exact same experiences that I was able to have, the amazing encounters with Christ, and this is a very sacred place.
My name is Jay Hovland, and I've been attending Faith Haven and Redeemer since 1980. A story that I think is of that campfire as a young man, and again, we're all excited about where we're gonna sit because we're hoping we're going to sit by a girl that we like or something of that nature. And that particular night, I experienced the Holy Spirit for the first time. And the joy that settled inside of me and just calmed my nervous system. There was something real, something true. And I go back to that as through the years as you doubt and wonder, it keeps me grounded. And that was a beautiful place, and that campfire room is sacred to me, because it's the beginning of a lot of stuff, and I'm excited for the next generations to be waking up inside to something that's so much bigger than who we are.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Lundberg, and I've been coming to Faith Haven since 2008. And one story that comes to mind is when I heard the Lord speak to me for the first time up at Open Chapel. I was praying, and I didn't really think that I would hear anything from him, so I did my prayer, and about 10 minutes later, I had someone come up to me and basically read back what I said to the Lord, and was able to confirm what I did hear from the Lord. So that was one of my special moments from Faith Haven that I will hold near and dear to my heart. I would recommend Faith Haven to anyone that would come up just for the community and friends and the family that you grow here at Faith Haven, and being able to grow in your journey together with those people is really special.
Hi, my name is Wanda Hart, and I've been coming to Faith Haven since 1971. I came to know Jesus when I was 14 here at Faith Haven at my confirmation retreat. A couple years later, my husband and I connected here. Eventually our kids came up here, but most recently it was when I was a camp cook, and my daughter Rachel was up here as well with her kids, also my grandkids. And it was then that we witnessed the kids putting a light bulb. That was very cool to have 3 generations of Faith Haven impacting the lives of our Hart family. And for that, Faith Haven will always be a very special, special place for us.
Carol Marasco.
The year you came to camp.
The first time, 1969, December. After a meeting, I think it was the high school camp, I was still in the chapel, and the youth director came, and he said, Carol, there are 11 girls that want to talk to you, and they won't talk to anyone else. And it was basically for them to accept Christ. When those 11 girls accepted Christ in the gazebo, that was top notch. When I went to bed that night, I just wept to think that Jesus could use a person that way. And it became a big part of my life. But this is a great place to be. It's a great place to come to, and it's a great place to find your Lord.
Hi, I'm Kenzie Monsrud. I started going to Faith Haven in 2002 because my mom was the director, but I started going as a camper in 2012 and then later became a leader. And so my first summer that I was a staff member, I was really struggling with my purpose in life and I couldn't figure out what I was passionate about. But that summer I was given the opportunity to solo lead a group of high school students at camp. And I was able to have such meaningful conversations with these kids, even though I felt so ill-equipped and really confused about my place in life. And I was able to see God move in their lives in such powerful ways. And the Lord really, really revealed to me that week that the thing I was passionate about was student ministry, which led to me being on staff again and now a director. And it was just really cool to see God transform this thing that I was super frustrated and confused over into something that was really beautiful and helped me know Him.
Hi, I'm Nathan Strecker. I first started going to Faith Haven in 2005. When I was a young kid, I really struggled with some sins that were really personal and private and shameful. And so when I was going to camp, I thought I was the only one who struggled with this. But thanks to my leaders and my small group of peers, I found out that I wasn't alone with this. Other people struggled with the same sin or other sins, and that they gave me opportunities to confess these sins to my leaders, but most importantly, to Jesus. And through that, I was able to experience freedom from these sins through a whole bunch of different activities that we did throughout the years that I attended camp as a student. One of these activities was we wrote down our sins and insecurities on a mirror, and then someone dressed as Jesus came and wiped it off so we could actually see ourselves as who God made us to be. Most importantly, I experienced this freedom through Campfire, where we sang songs like I Am Set Free over and over again, proclaiming how Jesus had set us free from sins. So since then, I look back at these moments to remember how Jesus has set me free from my sins.
Hi, my name is Brian Montague, former youth director here at Redeemer. I started going to Faith Haven in 1998 as a 6th grader, and I gave my life to Jesus as an 8th grader up at Faith Haven. One of my favorite moments up at camp was when we first started training these young leaders on how to help a student follow Jesus. And it was during an open chapel. I'm standing in the back watching all of these young leaders out with all the different students, and they're praying with them. And one at a time, these students stand up and put a light bulb in the light board, signifying that they've given their life to Jesus. And everybody would explode and celebrate. But what I saw Jesus doing in that moment, in the lives of the students, but for me, in the lives of those young volunteers, these high schoolers, college-age students, praying with kids, having a passion for them to meet Jesus and take that first step, absolutely blew my mind. And now I'm seeing these young leaders lead even more students to have those experiences as well.
My name is John Newald. My first experience in Faith Haven was as a 12-year-old in 1976, which then leads me to be one of the counselors up at New Year's retreat. And then it comes to New Year's Eve. And I had prayed with a few students to receive Jesus Christ for the first time. My heart is thumping because seeing life change happen. And I'm now standing in the back. And I looked up at the cross and I said, God, if you want to use my life to impact people for your kingdom, I'm in. And I look back now and that was my call to ministry. And I never knew it was going to take, it was going to be, youth directing and missionary and pastoring and leading. And I think of that moment at Faith Haven and the opportunity to see somebody's life eternally transformed for Christ still makes my heart thump today.
Hi, my name is Dave Meisner. 60 years ago, I attended the very first Redeemer Summer Camp at Faith Haven. I had just turned 9, and one Sunday afternoon, a friend and I got on the bus and headed to Faith Haven, along with about 40 other kids of all ages through high school. I remember I loved the singing and the free time, and especially going swimming. I also really liked the small groups where the counselors shared about Jesus' love and that I could have a relationship with Him. Not sure I really understood all that meant at that point, but I distinctly remember thinking about it for a couple days. And then after a campfire one evening down in the warming house, I went up to a counselor and prayed with him about accepting Jesus as my Savior. I attended Faith Haven many times after that, and my times there were an important part of my spiritual growth. I really do thank God for a place where so many have begun their relationship with Him and grown in their faith. My favorite quote from a Faith Haven camper is that God visits Redeemer, but He lives at Faith Haven.